Welcome back to another episode of The Real Franchise, a podcast that goes where others simply won't. An unfiltered view of franchising, business, mindset, and everything that we stand for when it comes to supporting a community of small business owners. Join me, Rhiannon, the CEO for James Home Services, and Justin, one of our owners, as we unpack it all with no topics off limits. Justin, what is our topic today? What are we talking about? Introduce us.
I thought it'd be great to talk about how much money do you need to start a business with us? And I guess it's a big question. Like any business, it's really an important one to make sure you understand how much money do you need to start. And you might be sitting there listening to this going, well, it's a subscription. It's only $1,000 up front. How easy is that? So Rhiannon, why did we assess someone's financial position before we approve someone to join our network?
Yep, good question. And I guess something that probably confronts people maybe in our information process is there is a point where you say to them, hey, just to let you know, if you do decide to keep progressing, we'll get to a point where we will ask you for a statement of assets and liabilities and your personal budget so that we can assess your financial position. Why do we assess financial position? Well, the very simple answer is we don't want to put anybody in a position of financial hardship by approving them to join our network. And again, for anybody listening, you're thinking it's a subscription model. How much money could we possibly need? And we're going to get to all of that because we do have some benchmarks for how much money we want someone to have. And the reason is that even though you're starting a business with a franchise and we've got the systems and we've got the marketing and we've done this literally hundreds of times before and we know exactly how to get you started as fast as possible, you're still not going to be earning $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a week every week from week one. It's still a business that you're starting from scratch. So the core of why we assess your financial position is we want to make sure that while you're building your business over those first few months, you've got enough cash to your name that you can still afford to live. You can still keep that roof over your head, food on the table, your kids in school. You can still meet all of your daily living expenses and your life expenses without any financial pressure. So that's why we assess. We assess so that we know that we're not going to place you or your family under any kind of undue financial pressure if we approve you to start a business with our network. So that's why we do it. I'm going to throw back to you because this is straight back into your wheelhouse. How do we assess? What is it that we look for? I touched on a couple of documents, but can you go into a little bit more detailed information?
Absolutely. So the third step of our information process. So step one is meeting with myself or Bella and going through an information session. Step two is actually meeting any of our franchisees and talking to them. And then if you want to go further, step three is we'll send you an application. And there's two spreadsheets in that application. One's, as you mentioned, assets and liabilities. The other one's a personal budget. And for some people that I'm working with, this is like the first time they've really sat down. And we really get them, people, it's really important. I said this to a couple last night. We're about making sure, as you said, Rhiannon, that your family, if you join, is not going to be put under undue, unnecessary financial pressure. And so it's really important that people take the time to fill in the budget with everything, so that you, as the new business owner, know very clearly what it is each week you've got to replace or that you need to survive. And then what we do is go, okay, like I have people say to me all the time, hey, yeah, no worries, I got $1,000, I can start with you. And it's like, but wait a second, if we start you, there's 2 weeks of training and you don't earn a cent in those 2 weeks of training. Then you start your business and hopefully there's customers in, with our accelerated startup program, people will have quotes, should have quotes, jobs and all that sort of stuff. But what we look at is worst case scenario. We look at how long can you survive if you don't get a single job, right? And because we've been doing this so long, like on average now we start people every week around the country, we know if you have X number of weeks up your sleeve, the risk of you not being successful, so long as you're working your business and, working the system, that's the big key. But if you're working the business, we know so long as you've got X number of weeks up your sleeve, there is extremely minimal chance of failure.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we're about, making sure. So we don't want this financial information. So, we know where they're at financially. It's about making sure that you as a new starter can come into this with a clear mindset and know that you've got every chance of success. Like, as you and I both know, the biggest challenge for people when they start is what goes on between their, in your mind. And if you come into this and you've got no money behind you whatsoever, right from day one, it's just like this panic. I need to get jobs. I didn't get jobs today. I didn't get many, and it's a downhill spiral. Whereas if you come in knowing, okay, yes, the James team have walked me through this. I know, I don't have, I've got this covered. I can get in, build my business, and I'm right. So the magic number that I guess to share with people, we sort of look at, you need to be able to cover your living expenses for at least 3 months as a bare minimum, for the average people. If you've got massive costs, like big debt load, well, you're talking about building a new business, so you'd want to make sure you got a bit more than that. But for the average families and individuals, we would highly recommend at least 3 months as a minimum. So if you're listening to this, sit down, work out your budget, work out what you need every week if you weren't working your job, or what your household needs, because, you might have a partner that's still working, their income's still going to be coming in.
Yeah, that's
so that will be, So oftentimes, like we have people join us whose partners cover all the living costs. Well, how easy is that? But if it's just you, work out what your costs are, and you need to have at least 3 months, we would say, to be wise to start.
Yeah.
Does that sort of answer that question? Sorry?
Yeah, it totally does. It really does answer that question. I've really seen, my own experience in this network, individuals that come in who already have a bit of a tight financial position. We've found in the past that their mind is distracted with that stress.
Yes.
And starting a business is on its own potentially one of the more stressful things you will do in your life. So we don't want to stack those two stresses on top of each other.
Correct.
So it is really important that we make sure that you've got enough that you can carry your business, you can carry the stress, you can carry the hard work, you can carry the determination it's going to require. You can carry that and you can focus on it. If your mind's off thinking about 10 other things and worrying about, can you pay your rent, can you pay your mortgage, whatever, if you're worried about all of that stuff, you're not able to fully focus on what you need to be doing in your business. And whilst this also might sound like a bit of a stretch, customers can smell desperation.
Yeah.
When you show up to a quote appointment, if you walk down their garden path going, I need this job. If I don't get this job, I can't make my rent this week. By the time they've opened their door, you are actually just reeking of desperation, and they can smell it. And they will either negotiate you to the floor on your price, or they will read you as someone less professional, not put together, not reliable, not trustworthy, not credible, with not having the authority necessary to do the job to a high standard, and they will find a way to back out of that potential work. So in my experience, people who don't have that added pressure of where's the next dollar coming from immediately do better in business startup. So that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, it's 2026. Not everybody has 10 to 15 grand sitting in their back pocket. So what happens when we do all our sums and the person that you're talking to hasn't got what they need? What's the next step? Is there a next step, or is that just it?
There's definitely a next step. And look, there's many people that aren't quite in that position, right? I've got a gentleman I'm meeting with this afternoon that's in that position. He's not quite there. He doesn't have 3 months. He's close, but doesn't have 3 months. So then I literally work with people. We sit down and go, okay, so we go through the budget and how much can you be setting aside? And we literally help people get a savings plan going. Or oftentimes people have got, a tinny out the back or a motorbike that they, ride every 3 months. Many people have those sort of things. And it's like, well, if you really want to start, have you considered maybe selling that off? And then, so how much do you think the motorbike's going to be worth? Oh, I can get $9,000 for that. No worries. Well, you put that in, great. That says you've got 30 weeks now that you can cover yourself. Let's do this. So it's working with people to either get a savings plan in place. Got a lady, actually, as you know, I let Bella know the other day, who she's going to start with us in July, right? For this very reason. She set herself a very achievable, realistic savings plan. I'm meeting with her every month, and she's booked in to start with us in July. So it's not a no. It's a no, not now. For your benefit is not the right time. Let's just wait a month or two to when the risk is as minimal as possible. And these videos are all about transparency. And one of the things I wanted to share, just to really for transparency, this here, I think is like we have an extremely, since we released our Accelerated Startup program, almost every single business that we've started, and we've started lots of them, is still with us today since we released that program. This here is one of the key components of that program. And it wasn't in the old James, getting this financial information. And you were the one that pushed for getting this, and it has the amount of people who haven't made it has so dramatically decreased. Like it is almost 100% success rate now. Mm. And this is a big part of it because, like you said, the mental challenge of starting a new business under financial pressure, for a lot of people, once you go on the downward slide into that black hole mentally, it is so hard to pull out of that. And this just removes that. Yes, it's still there in every one of our minds when anyone starts a business. Oh, what if, oh, no, I haven't got many jobs this week. But knowing you've got that up your back pocket, we just see people take off. Yeah. I know Danny won't mind me sharing this because he's open about this on his Facebook page, and I did this recording with him yesterday, and he's just started with us, and he's had an awesome first week, done exceptionally well financially. But even for him, he was like, oh, Justin, I was just so stressed because I got gaps in my calendar. Yeah. It's like, it's week one. Man, and you've earned probably more than you were getting in your job in your first week. Like, how incredible is that?
He knocked it out the park, didn't he? And he's probably shared with you last night in his episode with The Real Franchise that this week was week 2, and he's more than doubled what he did in week 1.
Yeah, exactly. Oh. Yeah. So, people would say, oh, well, why did you make him have 12 weeks? He achieved it in the first week. Well, that's what we want to see with everyone. But that doesn't happen with everyone. And for others, it's been a bit of a slog for 4, 5, 6 weeks, and then things take off, right? And if they didn't have 4, 5, 6 weeks up there in their pocket, plus the 2 weeks for training, what would have happened?
Yeah, that's right. There's another number that we create very early on, and then our business coaches use that number very much to guide the growth and develop of business owners, and we call it our break-even. Normally in business, a break-even is what does the business need to turn over in order to cover its own costs. But what we treat as the break-even is what is the business costs, what are the franchise fees, and what are your lifestyle expenses that aren't already being covered by another income in your household. And so we've got this amount that we come up with, a dollar figure. And by the way, your business coach comes up with that number before you're sitting in your training with them. They know when you sit opposite them, they know what your break even is, which means how much does this business need to be making every week in order for you to have all the costs in your world covered. That is our sweet spot. We want to get you there as fast as possible. And because we capture this information from you about personal budget and assets and liabilities, we know what your break even is, and we know how quickly we need you to get there in order to feel okay about this, in order to be able to take a breath and go, okay, I'm going to be fine financially. And so our business coaches use that. We share that number with you. We talk to you about what it means, and we make sure that the plan we have for how quickly you're growing your business aligns with getting you to your break even before you run out of cash.
Yep.
And so for some people that have got, 50 weeks, 100 weeks, 200 weeks, indefinite, that before they run out of cash, the break even is more about how soon can we get your business truly profitable? But for people who are a little bit tighter and they're using the business as a vehicle to create financial freedom for themselves, perhaps for the first time, then that break even becomes how much do we have to get your business turning over in order for you to get into that space of, okay, I'm going to be okay. I'm not using money every week now. So I think that it's one of the things that we've introduced that makes our approach to coaching and training far more strategic and personalized than probably, I don't know any other networks that do this particular task. So I think that it's a really great thing that we do it and we pay attention to it. The only other thing I want to add is that we don't make judgment about your financial position. We see everything. We see people who are really comfortable financially, and we see people who have been through it all and who are really trying to rebuild their lives. And, they are seeing this business opportunity as their vehicle to rebuilding a life that they want to create for themselves. We don't judge. Everybody has their own story. Everybody's come from something. Everybody's fighting a battle that we know nothing about. Our role isn't to judge. Our role is simply to assess whether we think that we can get you to your break even fast enough before you run out of money.
Yep. Very good. And we do that very successfully.
We really do. I think what are the stats now? We've started more than 50 business owners in the last 18 months since we launched Accelerated Startup Program. And to date, we've only had one of those business owners exit our network. And that was extenuating health circumstances that led to that. So that is a stat that we are both, I know I can speak for both of us in saying that we are both incredibly proud of. And so are our business coaches. They love nothing more than when their business owners succeed. So it's something to be really proud of. Yeah.
Very
perfect.
Good.
Let's leave this episode right here. I hope you found it interesting. If you've been listening and you've been thinking to yourself, I'm not sure if I've got enough, reach out anyway. Let us work through the process with you, because even if you don't, we can help you with a plan. If this is something you really want, don't let what's sitting in your account right now stop you from taking the first step, because there's always a solution. There's always a next step, and we are here to guide if this is something you truly want for yourself. So with that, I hope that there's been some value in this episode for you, and I hope that you join us for the next episode of The Real Franchise.